Okay, folks, pardon the, like sort of the glare here. Having to basically like hold this and prop it up on my, driver's wheel, but, I'm mostly making this like, video, posting it to, I guess in some sense vent about a lot of stuff that's been, going on lately. I'll start off and just kind of throw it out there first. As far as Nofap is concerned, I believe I'll have to go check back on the calendar because I really haven't been keeping track of days. And to be honest, I've had some minor slip-ups. Just kind of been kind of in a weak state of mind, but essentially I'm past about a week. I think I'm like on day 9. I have to go and sort of do the count or so. Maybe 7, maybe 8, maybe 9. I'll take a look at it, but and I don't really like to put numbers out there right away until I've gone through at least several days, and I can go, okay, I've gone through at least a week. There's at least some sort of momentum there. But so what's been going on lately? I'll start off with the positives. So I somewhat finagled a way to, basically like I had, because I kind of, admittedly I kind of dragged my feet to get registered and to get like, what the hell is setting off fireworks right now? Sorry, I just heard an explosion. And we've had, people setting off fireworks in the past around here, but anyways, I somewhat finagled away, even though I kind of admittedly did drag my feet to get registered. I got registered for a couple of classes, so 10 units worth. Right now they're basically like retake classes or refresher classes, because they're courses that I took in undergrad way back when I lived with my folks, and they're very disrupted environment, and classes I had to take over like multiple times, and I basically scraped by with like a C in those courses, and the bare minimum goal for me is I've harped on it ad nauseum, graduate school, preferably a master's of science in biomedical engineering, but other than the GPA requirement, which I do not currently meet, and they have various metrics for it, like in terms of like which units they look at. Let me see, they look at your institutional, your overall, or your last 60 units, and easiest for me would be obviously they get the last 60 units, technical coursework, 2.5 GPA or higher. Obviously I'd like to go 3.0 or higher, for any number of reasons, partially because if I have a 3.0 or higher, then that means that I'm going into graduate school as that caliber student, and that means that be able to maintain the required GPA, because in order to get in, there's like a certain hurdle, but then getting in, it's almost like getting in is the easy part. Staying in and completing the program is the hard part, because they'll say like, oh, no grade less than a C, but also 3.0 GPA or higher to stay in the program and finish your degree, finish the coursework, and then then you get into the thesis or the project, and so you really don't want to be going in with I barely scraped by and barely got in sort of set of stats, because that's kind of showing that you're like barely prepared, you're barely capable. And a lot of the professors will be like, I don't know about this guy or gal, like this person we're looking at, in terms of admissions, or just having them in the program, or becoming their advisor. So like we don't know if they'll be able to complete it. But yeah, I'm taking a couple of classes right now. It's basically General Chemistry 1 and Calculus 1. Technically speaking, they don't look at the Calculus 1 grade per se. They look at differential equations, but I'm trying to sort of refresh myself and fill in the holes of my understanding, and of all the stuff that the differential equations course is based off of. So I'm doing that. I'm also using it as an opportunity to raise my GPA. I know I'm kind of repeating myself here, but So I'm in those 2 classes. So far, I've been doing pretty well. A's in both of them. Working pretty hard, actually, to be honest with you. Like, I think I got so much frustration at work, because I was really like wanting to go for the lead position, and then kind of seeing that, there are other factors at work like schmoozing and brown nosing. Some people might call it. I mean, I've been in a sort of headspace where I have labeled it at times, but other times it's been more sort of like a, oh gosh darn it, if I'd jumped in on this or jumped in on that, I could have proved myself or what have you. Where the heck was I, sort of thing. And I think it's like a bit of both. But then there's sort of the half that you control, the half you don't control. You can't control whether or not you went to the same high school as this individual, or that individual who might be, determining who's going to be get promoted to this or promoted to that. There's stuff you can't control, and to be fair, it's been a mixed bag. But I got frustrated enough with that I just kind of was like, screw it. Like, I really need to take this seriously and go back to school, because if I had a master's, or if I was at least in graduate school, or I had, these certifications or what have you, like, certain doors would be open up to me. I would have, to sort of borrow some red pill terminology, I would have more options. Like, I would, in some sense, it'd be kind of like I would need my employer less than they needed me, and therefore I would, be able to maneuver and look around, and if I was going to jump from this company to another, I could actually potentially, jump into a completely different position in another biotech company, one that I actually want to get into, because I'd be able to say that, hey, I'm certified in this, or look, I'm at least in graduate school, doing this research into X, Y, Z, like I could say I demonstrate certain capabilities, blah, blah, blah. Or if I had a literal master's, like, especially if the master's lined up with the company I was trying to get into, well, you kind of see the mechanics that work there. But yeah, I got fed up with, having to sort of rely on I'm going to work crazy overtime hours, and I'm going to, try to come up with process improvement ideas, and document this and document that, and interface with this group and interface with that group, and try to schmooze these people and schmooze those people. And I got fed up with that, because even though in all reality, in all truth, like, that will always be a part of things. I mean, I'm gonna have to develop my social skills and social rapport way more, just because it's gonna be a part of things. But I don't want to be in a position where that's the only determining factor, because for one thing, there will always be someone who will be better at that than me for any number of reasons. My upbringing, my traumas, my strengths and weaknesses, my approach, my just my life experiences in general, and etc. Like, they shape you into, they can shape you into, or they'll influence you in a certain direction, your development as an individual. And yeah, there are things you can do to alter that trajectory ever so slightly, and change yourself and whatnot, change your belief set and things of that nature. But, like, there will always be someone out there who's a better schmoozer than you, and so it's kind of like, okay, yeah, you gotta be able to socialize and not be some creepy, weirdo, awkward, derp guy, who, just, like, doesn't exhibit a social intelligence or emotional intelligence and things of that nature. It's definitely, like, a component to any successful life plan, but, any terms I use, I'm not obviously intending to offend anyone, but, I just, I want to add sort of another aspect to things, or another sort of tool to my tool set, if you will, so that can work in my favor. And so I decided to turn that frustration into something better and focus it in on these classes and get that sort of stuff done. obviously, you go back to school and you kind of like end up confronting or being confronted by those very things that, like it's sort of the positives and the negatives of, college culture and the people, in the, gosh, it doesn't fall. And sort of like the campus community, or the, things like, let's just cut to the chase. Let's say, crummy lab partners and such. And of course, the irony is, like, once upon a time, I was a crummy lab partner. I really didn't have it together. I was kind of a mess, to put it lightly. And that's me being honest with folks who, I feel I can be honest with, because they're not just gonna take it and run with it and try to just rip on me and cut me down the way my family would. But like I have a lab part in my chemistry class who, like, I've been there. I've been in some ways where he probably isn't his developmental path, but, as much understanding as tolerance I want to have, for folks, because I don't want to be this, stuck up hypocrite type guy. I also can't afford to be okie dokie with that kind of stuff when I'm, on this path of, or on the stage of, hey, I'm taking this seriously. I'm putting in the extra effort. I'm doing whatever I got to do to, get those grades I need to get. Because, I've been out in industry and I've seen what doing the bare minimum, gets you, or even if you're making all the efforts, you need to be doing all the work, when the results, when the marks on a paper make it look like you're the bare minimum type guy or gal, person, whatever, what that gets you. And the job I currently have, they used to say you must have a bachelor's degree in, a science or engineering field, and then they downgraded it to, high school diploma. And apparently with my college degree, I might be like sitting at the middle of the pack in terms of, pay rate. So therefore, I guess I'm a tier 2 employee, but sure as heck doesn't feel like it. And I got basically fed up with that and was like, okay, instead of, complaining and whining about it, here's what I'm going to do. And so I've been doing that. And, for the most part, it's been going all right, though. I would say, like, tonight, my professor released some grades, and for some reason, he gave me, like, a 0 out of, it's supposed to be, like, 20 points for this lab assignment, and I know I turned it in, and I know I made my writing legible. My lab partner, on the other hand, he's been the kind of guy who sometimes he shows up to lab, sometimes he doesn't. Even if he shows up to lab, he doesn't, like, complete the assignments and turn them in. I don't know if, I don't know what's going on in his life, Could be all sorts of things. He could just not have any guidance and as to, hey, here's what you got to do in a college class, but didn't show up for a bunch of the classes. He showed up for the lab that we did, but he didn't complete the assignment or turn it in. I was the one who turned it in. I literally was the one who turned in the first, like actual assignment. Created the piles of assignments that we were turning, and we're turning in 2 of them. And I don't know what happened. I emailed my professor, waiting for a response. I hope he didn't lose the assignment I turned in, because if he's giving out a 0 out of 20, and I've had this happen before where, like, okay, I turned in the assignment. I don't think I've had it where specifically where the professor lost the assignment. I did have a time where I was taking an organic chemistry class, and I got paired up with this guy who he had almost my same last name. It was spelled slightly differently. And this guy was like the dropout of the class, or one of the dropouts. He just decided not to show up after a certain point. And I was getting like a B in the class, I believe. And, grades get released middle of the summer. I check them. I'm just like, wait, what the hell? I got an F in that class. Like, I literally, like, I can log on to the class website. I can, I know I did not get that grade, And so I had to go to the campus, my community college at that point down in San Diego, and I had to like go and I almost had to I honestly had to be coached by one of my friends at the time to go and for lack of a better way of describing it, essentially hunt down my professor, get him to come back to the campus, and I literally had to I took the grade sheet off of this wall. He put the grades on there, and I was like pointing them out, to him, and I had it in my hand, and he was like, oh, he wanted to get all angry at me for taking that paper, and holding it up, showing it to him, keeping my hand, holding on to it till he got there. And it was like, outside of that, he was like the nicest guy ever, but this older guy, like, the only reason I was honestly like angry with him was because like I had done the work, I had gotten the grade, and he had made this fumbly mistake of like mixing up my grade and the dropouts grade. And that was super stressful, because it was like, this is during a time when I was basically like, it was at the point, or during the time when I was at the cusp of getting the hell out of my family's home, getting out of that toxic, abusive environment. And it was like, the way the application cycle works to transfer to actual, full-fledged universities, you got to apply a year beforehand. So you got to apply, and if you're applying for, and they only do admissions, a lot of these schools, for like the fall semester. So you got to apply the fall before the fall semester you want to start at the university. And I came like this close to getting held back by another year, and I shudder to think what my life would have turned out like, as bad as it's been, as stressful and as tough as it's been at times, relative to one thing or another, one situation or another, one scenario or another, how bad it would have been if I hadn't gone there and, been adamant to the department of, of chemistry, or to the dean of the, science and engineering, departments, or, branch, or whatever school, that, I'm not leaving until he comes back and he corrects his grade, because I have this paper right here. Literally, this is the official one. Like, he posted this up in the wall outside his office. Here's my grade. Here's the other guy's grade. He gave me the wrong grade, So I've had stuff like that happen before, and honestly, like, this may be a case of that. I really hope it's as simple as that. Only other thing I can think is that, worst case scenario, he lost my assignment. He claims, he drops an assignment out of your grade, your lab assignment. So if he wants to fight me on it, basically, it's going to be a matter of, well, okay, drop that assignment, which is still a bunch of bull, because, man, I got up early and I finished that to make sure it was going to be turned in on time, and I was the one who did all the damn work, and I made sure I turned mine in. And the only other option other than those two is that he couldn't read my handwriting on my lab sheets, which, if that's the case, then here, you know what, I'll tear out the originals, the non-carbon copy ones, and I'll hand those to you, and if you can read those, please regrade, sort of a thing, That's the only thing, the only kind of options I can think of as to what happened. But it's extra frustrating to me, because not only this time around am I doing things as, as strictly as I can, but I'm having to do this while, my family's not literally here, thank God. I can just basically, ignore their messages, or not pick up the phone, or whatever the heck, when it comes to them trying to like put pressure on me, or give me SHIT about where I'm at in life, or what I'm doing, and things of that nature. But I'm under pressure from them because essentially they want me to, and this is something that they tried to do to me back in 2009 after I came back to that house, where it's a classic, just give up, throw in the towel, find some girl who will let you, basically stick it in her and give us some grandkids and just get some freaking job and, work till you drop dead and just do all the same old dumb ish we've done. I mean, it's like even to the extent of like, I remember back in, I think it was 2019, it was shortly after I graduated, and I, logged into my Credit Karma account and I found out about my finances, and I was just like, I was floored in a really bad way, because I didn't realize how much student loan debt I had, which when I saw that, looking back on it now, it explains why they didn't want to, why they were giving me so much, guff about asking for an extension on my, financial aid, etc. I didn't know about that. I didn't know how much the credit, the car was in total. Well, actually, I think I had some awareness as to the car because I was, making payments on it while I was in school. Credit card debt, I was a little more aware of that, but even if you added up the cars and the credit card debt and the parking fines, because I couldn't get a parking permit because they only issue so many per house in this area, and it's almost like you gotta wait until somebody moves out in order to be able to get a new parking permit. And even then the new website is just like it's it's your stereotypical half-arse government website where it just doesn't work, and then you gotta like go through this convoluted process of contacting the right person and explain to them why you need a permit and why your application couldn't go through and yada yada yada. But I didn't know about the student loan debt when I got into this yelling match with my father when I was just like, I'm gonna take charge of my own finances 100%. I'm taking this stuff to the next level. Because I was already like bit by bit by bit, I had worked into like taking over like taking over like the it's very basic stuff, honestly, like in terms of being an adult, but like no, I'm going to pay for my credit cards, and oh, I'm going to do this, and having to fight my dad over that stuff, but then really getting into a yelling match over him when I said, I'm getting myself out of debt. I want to be debt free. I want to, build wealth. I want to do, all these things, and like him just yelling at me and trying to tell me how I should, basically jack around with credit card debt because, oh, they give you a 1%, 2%, 3%, payback or whatever the hell. And it's just like, it's moments like that when you realize that the people who are older than you thought were wiser and smarter and more informed, so much of the time are like they're friggin' idiots. And I hate having to say that about my dad or about my mom, but like I've got overwhelming evidence that they're like I said to my grandma this today, they're book smart, but they're life stupid. And the amount of money they've wasted down the decades and how they could have had their house paid off 3 times over and, probably owned rental property and done all these different things. It's just like, the amount of money they had and what they could have done with it and how they just wasted. I mean, they're like, when people talk trash about the baby boomer generation, like I've got like a case study right here as to, hey, you know what? Whether you think it's right or wrong, whether you think it's accurate or inaccurate, whether you want to point out holes in the, that understanding, whatever, like I got reasons why I can agree with at least some significant points or a significant percentage or component or part of that understanding when it comes to my own parents. And today it's like, it's the kind of stuff that I try not to let it get to me, but it really points out this like stark contrast in like not only how my parents view me and and that really hurts, when you see that, okay, they would value, they would be perfectly happy with me just destroying my dreams, giving up on my life. If I just, got them some grandkids. Not only that, but, and, they basically put me under pressure like that and tell me, oh, I need to chase after the girls in my classes and all this kind of garbage. And, me telling my dad, like, point blank, like, one thing I realized about myself when it came to my bad grades and such, and the first round of college, basically, was that I got, not only did I get distracted by girls, but I chased after them too damn much. I should have been chasing after good grades, chasing after excellence, chasing after a, decent paying job, all those sort of things, which isn't to, miss that, a lot of the reason why I got distracted was because of my POS family and their disruptive behavior, their poor life decision-making skills, their narcissism, their, abusive belief sets and behaviors and so on and so forth, because even if you take the chasing after girls part out of it, like, I think a lot of the reason why I was chasing after girls was because I thought that was, on some instinctual level, it was a way to, like, get out from under, to get some sort of support, to have accomplished something that would give me value, beyond being some utility or, stuff of that nature. And it was really, like, flawed thinking. But, one thing I've had to realize in all this is that, see, the contrast between myself and my sister is that, see, my sister can be a complete screw up, and she has her reasons in some way psychologically for being like that. I mean, I've talked about some of the stuff that, I wish she had told me about, because I could have gone and gotten a little bit of justice, to put it lightly, against the person who did the actions. And I would have done that in a heartbeat, because, not only because, oh, she's my, little sister and all that, but, like, because that person, messed with me. And, I would have loved to, have given him a tune-up, so to speak. But, and, given how actually physically weak the guy is, like, a little tune-up would probably have put him in the hospital, maybe even, like, in a wheelchair. But, that aside, like, my sister can be a complete screw-up, a narcissist, basically a parasite, just like my mom. And all she would really have to do in order to have, like, the ultimate sort of, it's almost like a, ace in the sleeve, is just to get pregnant, spit out some grandkids, and then, ooh, we got grandkids from her, and everything will be washed away, I mean, hell, she can be a complete screw up, and my dad will pay for her to go to Las Vegas with some friends she supposedly has, or some, like, guy she just met, or whatever the hell. And it's just like, when I was her age, I had just graduated with my Bachelor's of Science in Chemical Engineering, and I had to actually work my back off, so to speak, in order to get any serious recognition from family members, and all the while dealing with all of their abuse and that toxicity, but also, given that my mother and sister are both very much like covert narcissists, having to deal with family members on my dad's side contacting me and telling me how horrible of a son I am, how horrible of a brother I am, how much I've never done anything for my family, when they don't know jack. People like diving in and doing that kind of stuff. But this is where I'm at right now, and I'm kind of slightly sort of like stressing out about the grade, because I emailed him, and he usually responds back within a day, but I don't know what the heck is the situation with that, because this is coming on the heels of me basically telling my family to buzz off, because, like, I'm in these classes for one reason and one reason only, and I'm not here for the girls, I'm not here for a relationship, and this is my focus, and this is my and whenever you do these sorts of things where you're like you're driving at a goal, and you're stating, hey, like, here are my boundaries, don't cross my boundaries, you're gonna, I'm not gonna allow that, because that's gonna disrupt me from attaining my goals. The people out there who don't understand or respect even believe in boundaries, they're waiting in the wings, hoping you fail, and they will do whatever they gotta do, whatever they can do. It could be something as simple as calling you up and, stating certain things that, like, it's almost like calling and be like, you know what, son, we never loved you, or, we never wanted to have a son, we only wanted to have daughters, or whatever hypothetically you can think of that was sort of like, if you really cared, would, sort of like throw you off a bit, just a little bit, or like, recently, and I know I'm going to sound from the tone of my voice and body language and all the stuff I've said before, but, recently my mom, this last week actually, she had a health scare where, as it turned out, because she's been on certain medications that essentially act as diuretics, her electrolyte levels, dropped. She wasn't intaking enough of them, ended up in the hospital, was kind of like wigging in and out of consciousness, unable to breathe, well. They had to get her on electrolytes. They had to, get her on this, that, and the other. And of course, the blood tests come back, and they're like, your electrolytes are low. That's what's causing this. And it's like basic like lifestyle decisions where it's like, okay, if you're on a diuretic, you're probably gonna be losing electrolytes. Your electrolytes are gonna be low, then go get more of them. Basic. Just go drink more Gatorade or Pedialyte. And they can't even. She couldn't even do that. And they got to call me up and tell me about this, and it's just like, yes, I don't want my mother in the hospital. I don't want my mother dead. I don't want da-da-da-da-da happening to her. But these are things that are preventable. I don't have any control over. And it's like, these are the kinds of things where it's like, hey, if you were taking care of yourself for the last 10 to 15 years, none of this stuff would happen. And this specific instance would not happen because it's a very basic thing. I've had times where I've gotten dehydrated and I couldn't think or talk coherently, and I had to go get some Gatorade. I had to go get some, electrolyte drinks, down those, and I was back in business. And I understood that, hey, I'm in a really hot room. I don't got AC. It's the middle of the summer. I'm feeling really dehydrated. You know what? This is why I'm getting the way I'm getting. I need to go get my electrolytes. And I went and, did that. I took personal responsibility for my own health, and I went and did that. They don't want to. She doesn't want to. They don't want to have to act like grown adults. And, like today, my mom had to go in for surgery to get her pacemaker replaced. And she was overdue for it. She didn't want to go. She didn't want to go. She didn't want to go. And finally, she, because of this recent, health scare with the electrolyte levels, finally she decided to go and get it replaced. And, it's supposed to last for 15 years and yada yada, that sort of thing. And it's just like, they do all these damn things, and it just, I don't know. I have to like, what's the term? I have to like gray rock them or greystone them, in the sense that like I have to go, what is the term? It's gray something. It's basically like you have to sort of be completely dead to them emotionally. Like you can be like, you're like, okay, yeah, okay, yeah, okay. And like talking to my grandma who's 92, and one of the things that I'm in many ways I'm scared of, I know one day in the near future, probably, without a doubt, no, definitely without a doubt, like, sooner than I would want, because, you never get enough time with the people you genuinely love. And my grandma, she's been the one person in my family, been there the longest, who never hurt me, never had to take anything from me, never tried to use me, always wanted the best for me, loved me with all her heart, all her soul. And I know one of these days she's going to be gone. And, as of late, she's really been like this person you could say I've sort of relied on. I could always call my grandma, and she would just take my call and talk with me, and support me, and, don't you let them do this to you, and etc., etc., and especially in the light of another thing I've been working on, which has been learning about my grandpa's service in the United States Navy during World War II, getting his official military personnel file, looking through that, figuring out what awards he was eligible for, applying for them because he never applied for them to, get the medal sent, specifically to my grandma, because my mom, being the narcissist that she is, like, she'll make it all about herself. She'll try and act like those are her medals. If you don't hand them over to her, she'll try and, like, vandalize them with food or something. She'll leave them on the open where they can be easily lost or stolen. All these sorts of things. Like, she had 30 years since my grandpa passed, and she never did a damn thing to, honor him in any way, shape, or form. And then she tries to accuse me of being, like, somehow, like, ashamed of him or someone. He was one of my heroes, if not my biggest hero. But talking with my grandma in light of that, and then seeing all the parallels between my grandpa's life and my life, and realizing how much the people in his life took advantage of him and his, his belief set that he had about, I'm the oldest son and I need to take care of my family and sacrifice, and all the potential he had for, becoming an officer in the Navy, for going from enlisted to officer and getting a degree in aeronautical engineering, all that, which he didn't get. He didn't even go to college not because he was dumb, but because he decided to go back home to basically take care of his family and make sure they had a place to stay and food to eat and all this kind of stuff, and gave up on all the promises that the Navy was basically, like, saw in him and was giving him. And, hey, if you stay with us, not only will you continue to rise up the ranks, but, we'll pay for you to go to college, we'll make you an officer. They saw his potential in him, and he decided to go back to basically be the savior for his family, and they just screwed him over. And I don't know if it was intentional, if it was just the case of, like, the parasitic ne'er-do-wells who don't think beyond the next high that they get from whatever it is, alcohol or some other even harder drug. And they just basically, like, used him. And that was so much of the story of his life, unfortunately. And he ended up dying really young, and his downfall started extremely early in life when he was 20 years old, and he came back from the war. He served 2 years. Could have done another term. Probably should have, in my opinion, given where he was at and what he was doing, and etc., etc. But talking with my grandma over that, there's all these, like, biographical details in his file, which it's almost like it doesn't directly relate to the military, but relates to stuff that was going on in his family. And then learning about all of that and having my grandma tell me, this is what they did to your grandpa. Don't let your family do to you what, his family did to him. This is why I tell you all this time, don't let them do that to you. Don't let them make you feel guilty about pursuing your dreams. Don't let them, disrupt you. Don't let them keep your distance as much as you can. And, my grandma, she also was, point blank very honest with me about her own, mistakes raising my mother, basically, like that. It was a case of, like, they didn't have anything growing up, my grandpa and her. And so they tried to give the things that they never got to have to their kids when things got better after the war. And basically, like, my mom, became a spoiled brat, essentially, as a result. And you can see that in her, and the fact that she's found ways throughout the years, and particularly with my dad, to sort of avoid consequences, never having to grow up. And my sister learned from her and has done the same damn thing. And that's kind of the headspace I'm in right now. It's just, like, processing all of that, and then trying to deal with the things I'm dealing with and work on the things I'm working on, and keep up with this or keep ahead of that and keep pushing forward. And honestly, like, it really pisses me off with my family because I've literally just started the process. It's not like I'm a year in or 2 years in and I just got one last semester of GPA booster refresher classes, transition courses as they call them, and I'm on the cusp of admission and that sort of thing. It's like I'm literally just starting, and they're already starting to try to disrupt me, to screw me up. And again, in many ways, I'm just venting. I'm just venting in some ways, many ways, in many these points, I'm just venting. But it makes me so damn angry. Like I want to have some love for my family, but the way they've defined loving your family is basically being used, being a tool. It's like when people say honor thy father and thy mother, and they want to be like as if honoring thy father and thy mother equals being an enabler. Oh, just give them money. Just give them all the money they ask for. Even if they're using it to spend it on booze, or they're spending it on booze, or they're spending it on, drugs, or they're this, that, and the other. They're missing their rent payments, or getting evicted from one place after the next, and da 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 da. Like, honor thy father and thy mother by giving them everything they ask of you. Even though that makes you an enabler, makes you a tool, makes you a doormat. Like, no, that is not honoring thy father and thy mother. That is not loving your family. If you really truly love someone and you're going to, be at all involved in their life, sometimes, a lot of times, probably more times than not with certain people out there, like in the case of my family, you're going to have to be the real, I guess, a-hole who, is willing to, like, tell them it, like, tell them the truth, tell it how it is, tell it like it is, even if it ruffles their feathers or hurts their feelings or what have you. And you're also going to be willing to be the one who sets boundaries and is like, nah, you're not crossing that line. No, get back, step back. You're not crossing that line. We're not playing that game here. I'm done with this. And maybe even to the point of I'm done with you. And it's a tough thing to do at first, And it's sort of like I've had to change my mindset when it comes to relationships and life in general to be the kind of guy who actually sets boundaries and doesn't take guff from people in general, And, it may mean that I end up alone for the rest of my life, but, I would rather be alone than be with someone and be miserable. And it sucks that, it's like the people who set boundaries are oftentimes the ones who end up alone, and therefore, in the evolutionary biological sense, they don't pass on their genetics, But that's just the reality of it, And my boomer parents think that relationships and marriage are guaranteed, so like, what's my problem? But other than that, I've kind of mapped out my plan for the next so many semesters, assuming that I straighten things out with this class and I, continue on the trajectory I was going on and get the grades I need to get, nothing less than a B. Obviously, I want to get A's. I've been doing the work to try and get those grades. And I've also jotted down in this notebook some of the health issues I've been confronting and having. I could probably talk about that in another video because this one's gone on for long enough, but jotting those down and trying to figure out how to basically set up something with a general practitioner doctor so I can go in and get examined and get like a general health checkup, because I have a number of issues. I've talked in the past about like abdominal pains, back pains. I pulled a couple muscles, my gluteus muscles and some in my back, and a couple of times, and honestly had to take a day off from work because of the pain. I think I might have arthritis in my left knee, or hoping it's nothing with my meniscus, but there's that. I got these signs of carpal tunnel in my left hand, or something similar to it. Some of those signs in my right hand, not as bad because my left hand's my dominant hand for writing, for instance. And what else? Like I said, I can go over these in more detail, but you might be able to notice their nails are missing. I had a fungal infection. I don't know where the fungus came from. It may have been from my fencing shoes or socks, or it may have been from the bathroom floor because it's kind of dirty, and we had so many people in and out of there, and 5 guys sharing the same bathroom and not really following any strict hygiene protocols. You step on open ground like that once and you get fungal infection, and if you scratch that area it spreads to your hand. You get the picture. But nails fell off, had to debride damaged, nail bed, the infected tissue. I had, fungal nail or antifungal ointments and sprays and stuff like that. And I was able to essentially get it under control, get it to the point where if I do get anything like almost like a return to such, it's nowhere as strong as originally was, but probably gonna have to get surgery on that. I'm hoping that I can avoid surgery on my left hand, other hand, in terms of like the carpal tunnel type stuff. If they can just give me some corticosteroid shots, and then the pressure decreases and nerves aren't impinged anymore, sort of a deal. Knee, I may just have to be doing like warm-up exercises. I hope I can avoid surgery for that. Hoping the abdominal pain is just a pulled muscle, which I think it most likely is. I mean, obviously I'm not going to go in there and talk to the doctor about fapping and how that may have affected my abdominal muscles and things of that nature, because, well, I don't think I really need to explain why you don't want to get into that, at least not until you have enough of a rapport with the doctor that they're not going to like look at you like you're some purple-headed alien or something like that. But it feels like it's most likely a pulled muscle. It kind of comes and goes. When I do stretch, the pain does decrease significantly, and since I've been losing some weight, it's also been going away. There hasn't been any bulge or any sort of tenderness or like feeling like there's a hole anywhere, so like I'm like pushing anything back into a hole. So I'm hoping it's just a pulled muscle. I just got to exercise and stretch more. Things like that. And of course, there's the general, you're in your mid to late 30s, going into your 40s, back pain type stuff going on. But that's basically the rundown right now. Like I said, I may go into some of these things in more detail in a later video, but this one's gone on long enough. It's it's 3/4 of an hour or so, and I don't know how many people are gonna really watch all the way through. But anyways, I'm gonna finish up now. Go back in, try to check for that. I'm gonna go see if I get a response from the professor. If not, try to unwind and go to bed, because unless I just had to study some more and then go to bed. But anyways, I'm like pretty much through the assignments for the first half of the week, so I don't really have anything to stress about for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, that sort of deal. But anywho, that's where I'm at. That's where my headspace is at. And thanks for watching. I'll see you folks around. Bye-bye.